everyone! In this long-awaited video, I'm going to be showing you guys how I take notes and my note-taking process. I just wanted to preface this by saying that each person's note-taking style is different, and note-taking is also very dependent upon the class and also the professor. So not all of these tips may apply to you, but I do hope that some of these are helpful.
Just lost my mind.
So first, let's flip through my biology notebook. As I said before, I don't take notes for every single class because I don't need to take notes for every single class, but biology is particularly content heavy. As you can see, I try to keep my notes relatively simple and minimal. I don't do anything particularly special other than maybe using a highlighter and a colored pen to separate sections. In my opinion, the most important thing about taking neat notes is probably having neater handwriting and spacing things out so that nothing looks too squished together. So next, I'll be talking about all the supplies I like to use. You guys know this, supplies are not everything, but sometimes a faulty pen just makes the note-taking process so much more frustrating. The note-taking paper doesn't really matter too much to me, but I recently bought these Muji B5 lined notebooks. My favorite pen ever is the Pentel Energel needle tip in 0.5. It literally doesn't smudge at all, and it's also super smooth, which I really like. Next are my favorite highlighters, which are the famous zebra mild liners. They are literally so cute, and I love all of the colors that they come with. They also come with a broad chisel tip and also a thinner fine tip. I also will sometimes use these Muji colored pens in 0.5 tips. For my inevitable mistakes, I'll use whiteout. Right now I'm using the Bic whiteout, but I really don't care too much about the brand, so I just usually buy the cheapest ones. Some more optional supplies that I use are a thermal printer to print diagrams and learner outcomes, and also a ruler and post-it notes or sticky notes. I forgot to mention this earlier, but for my titles I use one of two markers. This one is this, I'm not actually sure what brand it is because I got it with these other art supplies, but it's basically just a thick black marker. I also like to use the Tombow Fudenosuke brush pen if I'm doing a calligraphy title. So moving on to the note-taking process, I use the fine tip of a zebra mild liner to write out the subtitle in all capital letters to make it stand out. Then I'll move on to the first bullet point of information. I use this sideway arrowhead symbol to signify the main idea or the most general idea because I think it's more eye-catching than just a dot. I'm also aligning everything to the left margin so that I can save space and differentiate between main ideas and additional details. For the next main idea, I just continue to the line below with the same arrowhead symbol. Also, I'm really sorry for my weird handwriting in this section. It was really hard to try to write with the camera in the way. The point I'm making about abbreviations is really just personal preference. I know that abbreviations can actually be really helpful in getting everything down, especially in a fast lecture. My memory is just really bad, so I sometimes forget what they mean and get confused. For the next major subsection, I once again use the fine tip of a zebra mild liner to write the subtitle. I also leave a space between the two sections just to make my notes look less cluttered and less daunting. For important formulas, I'll box them using the fine tip of a zebra mold liner. I feel like even if the teacher gives you a formula sheet so you don't have to memorize them, it's still good to know them just so you don't have to waste time flipping through a formula sheet. If I'm taking note of information that's important to the class, such as exam dates or things that are going to be on the exam or assignment due dates, I usually just use a sticky note to write them down in my notes because I don't really want to permanently put it on my notes if it's not really relevant to the actual concept itself. Also, if the exam changes or is cancelled, I can easily keep track of these things without cluttering my notes with out-of-date information. I haven't talked about color coding yet, so let me just add it into this section. I'll usually just use one color for each concept because I'm really lazy, but sometimes I like to change the color coding of each subtitle to create a cohesive color scheme. For diagrams, I usually view them as an extra resource to help me with my understanding, so I don't like to draw them out by hand. But sometimes on the exam, you're required to draw different diagrams and processes, so if I actually need to know how to draw it for an exam, I'll also draw it out in my notes to get the practice. But if it's only like a supplementary resource to help me understand, I'll print it out using a thermal printer. Okay, this next section is basically just some general note-taking tips to make studying more efficient and effective. So first, obviously, we have try to summarize everything in your own words when taking notes. So this will help you because when you word something yourself, you will understand what you mean and know what you're talking about. And also there's just, in general, less words to remember, which might make remembering everything a bit easier. A tip that I have would be to try to write everything into a limited amount of space, like for example, fitting one concept onto one page, because having this goal will force you to condense the information and reword it into your own thoughts. It also will definitely make your note-taking process a lot faster since many textbooks and resources are unnecessarily wordy. Not going overboard with the color coding and the decorations might be a good idea because then you'll be more focused on the actual information and the studying rather than trying to make your notes look very pretty and aesthetic. I know that having really neat and pretty notes can motivate many people to stay focused and actually study, but there is a point where too many decorations becomes more distracting and brings more harm than benefits. Now, since the content of what you're learning varies a lot, there are many systems in place to help you organize the information. I would say that it's pretty important to be flexible in terms of what note-taking methods you use so that you can find the best way of organizing a particular concept or unit. For example, I often find myself taking notes using the outline method, but having one or two sections in the middle of the notes that are in a table format or in the Cornell note-taking system. In case I want to do another smaller subtitle inside the larger subtitle section, I use a colored pen to write down the subtitle, and I also underline it to make it stand out. So here I'm just outlining the 4 most popular types of note-taking organizations that I've seen. So there are like the summaries or outline methods, the Cornell note-taking method, tables or charts, and also making mind maps or process maps. I won't go into too much detail about all of these. I'm sure you've either heard of them by now or you can find resources that explain exactly how they work, But yeah, all of these are really easy to combine or even adapt to your own note-taking style and learning styles. So yeah, when you're taking notes, definitely don't limit yourself to only one of these organization systems. Just try to find the type of note-taking that best suits what you're learning at the time. Also, don't be afraid to experiment with these styles, modify them, or even make your own note-taking system if you think that it'll help you better understand the information. Okay, so this is what our notes on how to take notes finally look like.